Okay, some practical stuff for everybody. This is a real life example. Grower gets his ginning summary back. He's got one field that he's done a variety trial in, a bit of one variety, a bit of the other variety. He's got his areas. He's got the number of rounds that were produced, number of bales produced, bales per hectare. Now you probably can't see that figure, but this variety outperformed the other variety by a bale per hectare, and you think, great, I'm going to grow more of that next year. You then go into the detail. You look at, okay, this is using Cotton HID viewer in our software. The guy that was in the picker actually started, the documentation was set up incorrectly. He started picking and he picked up here first and then realised he was at the wrong end of the field. So he came down and picked down here. So this was one variety, this was the second variety. So these two rounds that were in that previous slide were allocated to the wrong variety. So straight away you've got a variation in the yield. So the second thing that happened in this field was that the area that the gin was told was in each of those two varieties was incorrect. When you actually looked at the pick data, there was 11.5 hectares according to the gin, and it was actually really only about 9.7. So when you're looking at trial data, you've really, if you want to do it properly, you've got to go into the detail to do it properly. The rounds were allocated to incorrect parts of the field and the actual areas were different. So you then lead into the yield map, and even with those other issues, when you take a look at the actual yield map, we shouldn't be looking at a full section of a field and a full section of the field for the two varieties, the total area for each of those varieties. Really, we should be looking at a very narrow strip of where those two varieties join together, because you can basically say that the soil conditions are very similar in those two strips. Don't put a trial where there's a grade break in the field, because this side of the field might irrigate slower than that side of the grade break, and so you'll get a better yield, depending upon the season, you'll get a better yield either side of that grade break. So where you put your trial in the field is very important. So in this section here, red's poor yield, blue's high yield. You can see that there's a really high yield up here in the field. When we actually pull it back to a narrow strip either side of the variety break, we actually end up with only a 0.05 bale per hectare difference. Now in the first slide that you saw, we had a bale per hectare difference. So the grower says, let's grow more of that particular variety. In reality, when you take it back to the detail, 0.05 bales per hectare. So maybe you don't go and grow more of that second variety. So it's just common sense of where do you put your variety trial, where do you put your trial in the field, making sure that you've got consistency in either side, and when you do the analysis of it, that you go into the detail. You don't take a look at the average of the whole area of the variety. You really narrow it right down to either side of where that split in the variety is, or the trial, whatever treatment you've got. Try to replicate it if you can, because that takes out some of the variability as well. But I know, being an agronomist in previous life, yeah, you try to do things simply in a field. So yeah, half a field this variety, half a field that variety, and this is what comes out of it, just error. So just be careful when you are doing your trials.